Good afternoon. In just over a month's time, the world will witness the inauguration of the new president of the Philippines. Included in the gala and pageantry of the event is one important fact. The new president will swear to defend and uphold the Constitution. President Duterte also did that in 2016. Many things have happened since then. An American Duterte was elected in November that year only to lose in his re-election bid. There was the Marawi siege and then the COVID pandemic. But this did not define his presidency. Weeks after he became president in July 2016, the International Tribunal of the Law of the Seas awarded a favorable arbitral ruling to the Philippines. How the Duterte administration steered the nation through the uncharted path in international maritime law and navigated safely the intricacies of diplomacy in a world that is becoming multipolar in terms of security and economic powers would be his legacy to a grateful people. He kept the Philippines out of harm's way during his watch. The International Crisis Group considers the South China Sea as the 21st century flashpoint, taking into account its critical maritime passage location as a means of supplies and trade. The same think tank also noted in November 29, 2021, that the disputes in the South China Sea are fundamentally about claims of sovereignty. However, the Chinese-US rivalry loads the dissension with geopolitical significance. We are bound by a mutual defense treaty with the United States. The Philippines is one of 16 non-NATO countries that the US State Department considers as its major allies. Yet, we are neighbor to a rising power who has become assertive over its own claims of sovereignty over the South China Sea. I see the US today as the United Kingdom in the interwar period of the last century. As Great Britain was fending off the causes of nationalism in her colonies, so is the United States today deluding itself of the extent of its persuasive power by way of economic and military might. Why then did the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates not take the call of its president in connection with the Ukraine crisis? The international crisis groups view the South China Sea conflict as a rivalry between a rising China, challenging the US-led rules-based international order during a time of epochal power transition. The think tank continues that while the US aims to preserve the post-World War II order, in serving its own interests, China seeks influence commensurate with its growing military might. Caught in between the middle of a power play over the South China Sea, President Duterte had only to rely on the very constitution he swore to defend and uphold. Article 2, Section 7 of our Philippine Constitution provides the state shall pursue an independent foreign policy in its relation with other states. The paramount consideration shall be national sovereignty, territorial integrity, national interest, and the right of self-determination. Their approachment towards China, some derided it as an appeasement, was highlighted by many calculated acts from our diplomatic ends. Then DFA Secretary Perfecto Yasay said that the Filipinos would no longer be America's little brown brothers anymore. President Duterte, while in China, said that he could abandon the US and would turn to China. And there was the threat to terminate the BFA. President Duterte visited China 5 times and met Chinese President Xi Jinping in 8 bilateral meetings. He never visited the United States. During his term, China has become the largest market for Philippine products. And China is also the largest source of imports for Philippines. The growth in our trade between the two countries has grown by double digits since then. Chinese tourists accounted for the second largest group in terms of tourist arrivals in the Philippines. And of course, we all remember that the first vaccines given to our people were courtesy of the generosity of China. 1 million doses given as a gift and as a generous action of the people of China. And there is that memorandum of understanding on oil and gas development between the Philippines and China. The document was signed on November 20, 2018 by Philippine Foreign Secretary Teodoro Locsin and his counterpart Wang Yi. It was entered to facilitate the cooperation on developing oil and gas resources in relevant maritime areas, including the West Philippine Sea. It, however, steers clear of any conflict in territorial claims by declaring that all discussions and negotiations made by the two countries pursuant to the deal will be without prejudice to the respective legal positions of both countries. China diplomacy has been guided by the 5 principles. The principles of mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Second, mutual non-aggression, mutual non-interference in each other's internal affairs, equality and cooperation for mutual benefit and peaceful coexistence. More recently, China advances a noble argument, a community of common destiny, to improve on the rule-based international order favored by the West. Officially known as a community with a shared future for mankind, it expresses China's aim to a new framework of international relations which would promote and improve global governance. The Constitution of the People's Republic of China was amended in 2018 to include the phrase in the preamble. As the first major amendment of China's foreign policy in more than 4 decades, it shifted the focus from being a nation-oriented to focusing on the world, the whole of humankind. The phrase was first used by former General Secretary Hu Jintao and has been frequently cited by current President Xi Jinping. The phrase may be contrary to the conventional thought that the Great Wall defined China, her people, and her psyche. Julia Lovell, in her 2007 book, The Great Wall, China Against the World, wrote how the wall winds, quotation mark, through the lives of millions of individuals who supported, criticized, built, and attacked it. Legendarily 2,200 years old and 4,300 miles long, the Great Wall of China seems to make an overwhelming, confident physical statement about the country it spans, about China's age-old sense of itself being an advanced civilization anxious to draw a clear line between itself and the barbarians at its border, close quotation. China is, however, in a coming out party, and it has a well of over 3,000 years of continuous existence to draw guidance for action for any occasion. China may as well refer to the Confucian goals of amity, peace, and harmony among peoples. David, from the insular cases to the Jones Act, to the parity rights, to Laurel Langley, the Philippines has our own versions of unequal treaties. Robert Vickers wrote in The Scramble for China, Foreign Devils and the Qing Empire, 1832 to 1914, quotation mark, a powerful global China is unprecedented. This provides new food for thought, especially as Chinese youth comes out of the world equipped for an instinctive indignation of China's past humiliation and what they feel to be contemporary echoes of this. Profanities included, President Duterte has only articulated our own indignation. He has added to our voice they call for the rectification of our historical faults by way of crafting a truly independent foreign policy. That is his legacy, not only in terms with bilateral ties with China, but in our relations with other states. In doing so, President Duterte has made every Filipino stand tall and proud in dealing with the world. In a community with a shared future of mankind, every Filipino can declare, ako'y Filipino, taas noo kahit kanino. Thank you.